Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Fog of Love, which is sort of a cooperative game, sort of a competitive game, where two players are kind of acting out characters in a relationship. And a quick disclaimer that I was sent a review copy of this one. So how well does this mishmash of role-playing and board game work? Let's find out and get to the list. So my first point for Fog of Love is a mix, and that's the idea of whether this is a cooperative game at all by some definitions. Because technically, if you play the rules as written, you are just trying to fulfill your own personal destiny, and sometimes that means that you stay in the relationship. In the first several scenarios, it's basically fully cooperative, and you have to stay in the relationship. But later on, you can break up, you can try to bluff your partner, you can try to, make them be less happy than you are. So that's the negative side here that might bother you more based on what kind of gameplay you're looking for. But again, several of the scenarios offer fully cooperative play, and if you and your partner, whoever's playing the game with you, want to always play cooperatively and want to always play for mutual happiness, you are totally free to do so. The game just gives you some options that can kind of throw a wrench in the mix. My number 4 point is related to number 5 and also a mix, and that's your love level, which will slowly be ticking up. And it's heavily related to most of the destinies. You often need to have a certain amount of love in the relationship for you to win. And the positive side is that this works pretty thematically. It gives you a pretty clear mechanical goal to go for, being happy. But on the potentially negative side, the effects that give you or take away love on scene cards can sometimes feel a little bit random, and sometimes the choices are out of your control. Now, that's part of the whole role-playing feel of the game, which I'll get into later. But if you're playing this game fully as a mechanical experience and just trying to win by getting the highest happiness, the highest love possible, sometimes the game will feel like it's taking that choice away from you. But for my number 3, I'm up to a full pro because I think this is the most mechanically interesting part of the game. So you have these personality dimensions, these kind of either or 6 categories here. And you and your partner will be putting tokens in both spots of these. And a lot of these will come from features and your occupation, like the fact that you are a priest with strong hands, cute and soft skin. But that's just a starting point. The majority of them will come from your choices and plays in the scene cards. And again, this is a pro because it's the most mechanically interesting and consistent part of the game. You have very clear indications of which choices will change your attributes in different ways. And you also have very clear goals to go for because you have these trait cards that will reward you with extra happiness if you have specific attributes in a certain place. And sometimes it's even a shared balance where both you and your partner have to have that balance of attributes overall. My number 2 is also a pro, and that is the scene cards. And this is really the meat of the game. 90% of your time in the game, or more than that, is going to be playing scene cards and making choices. And first of all, these are fun from a little role-playing standpoint. You have a little story at the top. You have different choices in here. You can go with the choice that helps you win the most mechanically. You can go for the choice that kind of matches the character you're creating the most. It depends on how you want to play the game. Now, sometimes it is based on what you both choose or how well you guess what the other person will choose, which, again, if you're playing cooperatively, it works, I think, pretty well because you can think about what sort of things they're going for or what you're all both working toward together, try to figure out what their destiny might be and work towards it. But yeah, the mechanics are very simple. The story, kind of the emergent narrative that comes from these can be a lot of fun. Although one complaint I'll add for people who are here for a narrative is that there's not necessarily a lot of connective tissue between the cards. First you have a question of who pays for a date, and then you have an affair with your partner's best friend. So players who enjoy kind of creating linking narratives will have a fun time figuring out what happens in the relationship and how you get from A to B. But if you're looking for a cohesive story, the game doesn't really provide that for you. It's more like little vignettes and moments in your life. And my final point is a mix because it is so dependent on what you're looking for from the game, and that is whether this is a role-playing game, sort of a create a narrative game, improvisation game, or whether it's a mechanical game. Now, as I said, the destiny cards, the scene cards, the traits, they give you some mechanics, some clear goals to go for, but it's not like a strong mechanical game. It is very basic in the things you are doing. So if you're here for a strategic experience, I think that's where the negative side comes in of this mix. But on the other hand, if you like acting out characters, creating a little stories together, maybe even throwing in some dialogue if you feel like it, I think it is a pretty unique and fun experience. But yeah, if you sort of play a part and just get into the fun narrative and role-playing of the game, I think for people who can do that, who maybe have some role-playing experience or would like a light way to get into it, could have an awesome time with it. Overall, as my points probably made clear, I can recommend Fog of Love to you if you like role-playing games or kind of improvisation or creative narrative storytelling, especially if you have a good friend, game partner, or significant other that can play it with you, since it is just a 2-player game. But on the other hand, if you're looking for deep mechanics, a ton of strategy, or a more proscribed story that you kind of follow along, you're not going to get that here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.